Well, the house is 44% is taxes.
Of the build of the house?
Yes.
Not the land, just the house?
Just the house.
That's the
not
house.
44%.
44%.
That does not sound right at all. All right, punts, I was doom scrolling on Instagram and I came across Pauline Hanson's face telling me something very outrageous that just cannot be true. Let's take a look and then let's break it down.
Well, the house in Australia, how much do you think of that is actually taxes?
I don't know.
Of 100%, what do you think? How much is taxes?
Well, you might correct me, but I heard this story secondhand, so I don't know if it's a true story.
I love that self-awareness. I heard this story secondhand. Probably not true. It probably isn't, mate.
Someone was speaking to one of the major builders at a golf day,
Tracks, that's where wealthy people hang out on golf days.
and the major builder said, a block of land that used to be 150,000 is now 450,000. And he said, this is allegedly, that 187,000 of that is taxes. And so I don't know if it's that high, but it's something
The
ridiculous.
build a house is 44% is taxes.
Of the build of the house?
Yes.
Not the land, just the house?
Just the house.
That's the
not
house.
44%.
44%. Yes.
If you add up, I guess, the land taxes and then
Well, no, you can't. She said to build a house if you add up the land taxes. No, that's a tax on the land, not the house. None of that sounds correct at all. Punters, fact checks welcome, citations necessary in the comments below. But here's what I found in my 3-hour deep dive of finding out whether Pauline is correct. Spoiler alert, she's not. And where these numbers come from and who benefits when we believe the story that Pauline is currently peddling. This video is sponsored by Punters Politics. That's me. I've got t-shirts, punterspolitics.com. Go take a look. Check them out. Anyway, back to it. Whoop. Let us begin. And it starts here with a paper written by a friend of the podcast, Dr. Cameron Murray, who wrote a book about housing. So this bloke actually knows what he's talking about. But the problem with people who know what they're talking about in these areas, it's really hard to understand what the hell is going on. So I'm going to try my best. If I get things wrong, comments below. Cheers, punts. So this paper was written to debunk that exact claim that Pauline is peddling right now. She'll probably peddle it all the time. Cam Murray wrote this back in 2021, and he identifies where this talking point is coming from. And guess what? Housing industry lobbyists. So remember that golf day that old mate heard the story from? Yeah. Of course you'd hear it at a property golf day because it's come from their lobbyist. He was probably a lobbyist. And the claim goes like this. That property-related taxes comprise a large and growing share of the price of new housing and are hence pushing up the market price of new and existing dwellings. So it's taxes to blame for your high property prices, certainly not property developers, certainly not property investors, certainly not the people who are absolutely freaking loaded right now because of high house prices. Not those blokes, it's the government taxes. Now, I slam the government a lot in a lot of my videos. This is not going to be one of them. So how does she come to this 44% number? And here's what I discovered. It's magical, fanciful accounting where someone just cooks the books and adds numbers together. When actual experts and economists look at this stuff, they go, yeah, no, that's just bad math. That's not how it works. And so they've done essentially 3 things, and I'll fly over it because it gets boring fast. Here we go. Hey, wake up. Here we go. Number 1, they're counting things in this magical, fanciful number that aren't even taxes. Look at this. They counted the cost of broadband connections and utilities in that number. That's a service and a utility. It's not a tax. So you got to scrap that as well. And then they do things like double counting taxes. So if you bought supplies from Bunnings, hell, they'd include the GST on the lunch your bloody tradie bought while he's building your house. They include payroll taxes. They just, for any word that they say tax, they just lump it in together. And this can result in double counting the same kinds of taxes. And taxes paid by the wages of the workforce? Get out. You don't get to. I love this when big business, they claim me paying tax as them paying tax. Piss off. Pay your own taxes. These are my taxes I'm paying. I'm getting the credit for them. If you counted Australia's taxation the way they're counting it here, the total would be more than all of the taxes paid across the economy. So the number that comes out the other end is way higher than any taxes that anyone's paid. So if the government did their accounting this way, they'd be like, oh, well, we should have so much taxes. Oh, we only have this much in the bank. There's a misalignment there. So someone's doing the math wrong. All right. So the number's completely made up and can't be trusted. Why would the housing industry lobbyists do something like that? That is confusing. Well, anyway, is it true? Are property-related taxes the reason for high house prices? Let's take a look. So if we did what they wanted, here is what they're saying will happen. They're saying that this is currently the scenario here that Pauline Hanson's talking about. This much house construction, this much site value. If we just got rid of these pesky taxes, we would solve our high house prices. Well, hang on. If we did that, if their theory was correct and we did what they said, cause an Australia-wide recession because we'd drop house prices by like 50%. People would default on mortgages. They'd be having a mortgage for a house that's worth double of what it's worth. Why would the property market advocate for like literal destruction of the entire housing economy? Is it because they know what they're saying is complete BS? Or is there something else going on? Oh, right. Okay, well, according to an actual economist, this is more likely to be the price effect if you got rid of your taxes. Okay, the market price stays the same. All those sweet, sweet taxes that went to the government now end up in whose pocket? The person that gets the new site value. That wouldn't be property lobbyists and developers, would it? Maybe. So let's see if I can understand it. Why would the market price of the house remain unchanged even if the government cut certain taxes connected to it? Yeah. If the property effects were true, property industry groups would have wiped trillions of asset value from homeowners and landlords. That doesn't sound like a smart thing to do. The more accurate view is that when taxes are removed from property ownership or development, the value of these taxes is transferred to the owners of the development sites through higher asset values. Huh. So we don't get higher house prices. All right, I guess the good news is we haven't completely crashed our housing economy, but the bad news is that house prices are still the same. Why is that? Well, according to Cam Murray, property is an asset that is priced based on expected future returns. And because buyers know they must pay stamp duty on property purchases, they will reduce how much they're willing to pay. Yeah, that makes sense. I go to buy a house, I have 500 grand. If the government reduces taxes and stamp duty off that, I just go, cool. I still have 500 grand. And if I'm bidding against other people that have the same amount of money, I'm still going to spend 500 grand. And I'll tell you what, if I'm willing to pay it, then property investors and developers are willing to take it. So if stamp duties were removed, buyers would spend that tax amount on paying the property seller more instead, because the free market determines the price based on what punters are willing to pay for something. If they're willing to pay a lot for something, then they will just charge a lot for it. If they're not willing to pay a lot for something, then they're not going to charge as much for it. The brutal reality, punters. Oh, you are not going to like this. Tax obligations, in fact, reduce the net return of the asset. If we did what property lobbyists want us to do, that's right, the blokes making bank out of our housing crisis right now, what we would be doing is transferring our tax dollars from the government, which can provide us with goods, services, education, nursing, hospital, all the things we get a bit of return on investment on, to property owners. So I guess the takeaway for me is this, and it's a tricky one for even me to get my head around. Taxes are neither good nor bad. Pauline Hanson, God love her, comes from the worldview that government taxes always bad. But there are many, many examples where government taxes actually help us, actually level the playing field. Taxes are not good nor bad. They can be helpful and they can be unhelpful. They can be helpful for some people and less helpful for other people. We just need to get out of this worldview where government tax is always bad and that's always the problem. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. Now, I heard it myself and all right, I hear you. Conrad, name one time when taxes on properties made it better, not worse for everyday Aussie punters. I came prepared. Thanks, Cam Murray. I have an example right here. 10 years or so ago, the ACT transitioned from having stamp duty taxes when people buy and sell properties to moving towards a land value taxation system. And now, 12 years on, let's see how it went. Now, here's the whole paper. You can look at it all, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to read some of the key findings here. Land prices in the ACT have not been affected adversely. House prices have increased and unit prices are stable. So the house price increases trend continued, but unit prices were stable. But here's the key difference with the ACT and other places in Australia. The property boom, as prices kept on going, were driven mostly by owner-occupiers, not investors, including first home buyers. So that increased from about 60% of value of purchases in 2012 to 78%. So if you think a good outcome for a taxation policy is to have more owner occupiers, more first home owners, first home buyers getting a house, then this would be an example of an improvement on that regard. The key takeaway for me is this: property developers do not care about housing affordability. They want prices to be high because they make bank. They're worried about one thing: their profits, and how can they keep their profits going up and up. And the one major thing that they want to try and convince we punters to do is to not give our tax dollars to the government where we can get some services in return. No, they'd prefer us to transfer our money just directly into their bank accounts. So, Pauline, I've got news for you. Whoever told you those numbers is not on your team. They're taking you for a ride, and they're just trying to squeeze more profits out of everyday punters. And we end up paying the price. Massive thanks to We the Punters over on Patreon. These are the punters that keep me making the videos that I think are important rather than the ones that just get the clicks. Feel free to share this with a punter who might not know just how scammed we're getting. If you like what I'm doing and you want to support, you can head over to punterspolitics.com, pick yourself up a brand new t-shirt, give the video a like, the channel a sub, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Cheers, punts.